So the other interesting thing about this in Hollywood terms is that there aren't a lot of terrible things that happen. And it's so interesting. It makes it unconventional in a way.
I think it's interesting because that's, I've been asked about it before, and I think it's interesting what it says about movies that people can ask that question, actually.
I agree.
Because anyone that we knew who, and there's a spoiler here, but who lost someone incredibly important to them.
That's a pretty bad thing to happen.
That's a terrible thing to happen. That would define most people's
lives. Well, that was my answer to the person who said this to me. I said, my God, she lost,
Yeah. And I, when people say to me, well, there are no baddies, I say, how many baddies are in your life, really? And is your life easy as a result of no baddies? No, it isn't. I'm sure you have a difficult life full of joy and pain and struggle like everybody else, and there is no conventional villain threatening to shoot you.
But also, one of the most wrenching things that can possibly happen to anyone is leaving their home and moving to a new place.
And then losing somebody.
Yes.
I mean, these are huge.
So these are both biggies.
Huge
and
feelings.
Then finding the love of your life is another one.
Yes.
Getting married is another one.
So I think that we have the movie universe has a very skewed view of what's difficult.
I agree. We're dogged on all sides, but that's what makes. So what do you? People are. I mean, it's like 100% on Rotten Tomatoes or something. There's something going on with this movie, and one suggestion that has been made is that it's reaching for a kind of older-fashioned romantic approach that today's youth are no longer aspiring to in some way. Maybe I'm not putting it right, but that seems to be it. There's something about this, the way that both of these lovely young men are interacting with this lovely young woman, that seems lovely.
Well, one thing that has become clear to me, and I'm really pleased about and surprised by, is it destroys teenage girls, this film.
Good.
Yeah. And there was a rather lovely thing that my publishers told me. Colm and I share a publisher in the UK, and my editor overheard two of the girls working in the publicity department making plans to meet for a screening, and my editor stepped out and said, "You two have been, right?" And they said, "Oh yeah, but we're not waiting until November the 6th before we go again." And it was their second time in a week. And afterwards they were going to go back.
I've seen it twice.
Movie. And
myself.
You wanted to see it the second time.
I really did.
I think that there will be lots of repeat viewings, and one of the yes, so bad. I'm so sorry. One of the things that is working about movies, it's working for all ages, and it seems to be working for both genders as well.
Which is a little bit of a surprise.
Which is a bit of a surprise.
But it's not a conventional romance.
It's not a conventional romance, and that central thing of the relationship with home, of course, is gender-free, really.
Well, in America, I imagine, but the UK is full of immigrants as well.
Full of immigrants, and Finola Dwyer, my wife's producing partner, she read the book when she's a New Zealander living in London, and her mother was poorly at home while she was reading it, and I think a lot of the book spoke to her about that. And the same mother emigrated to New Zealand from Ireland in 1952. So these stories are everywhere, and of course this is at a time when millions and millions of people are being forced out of their homes, and Europe has the biggest crisis since World War II in terms of displaced people, and thinking that every single one of those people feels as heartsick as Ailish and actually are worse off is sort of fairly devastating. The first director I spoke to about the script was Mike Nichols. That's how long ago I wrote it. And he said one of the questions he asked was, why now? And meaning the immigration issue. And he felt that I should try and accentuate its relevance to the present in some way. But actually, I don't think you do need to, because I think we live with those stories permanently.
Well, my own grandfather, his parents came from Ireland.
Really?
My own County Clare, I think, and William P. Callahan, and my grandmother's parents came from Germany.
Wow.
And they met in New York and married. You know, I mean, they were second generation, each of them. I mean,
it's
they
very
were born
interesting
here.
how, I mean, here, what a ubiquitous story it is.
It is, yeah. Totally.
Kind of by definition, it's what America is.
So what other directors did you work with over the course of time, and how long was the time?
I didn't work with any other directors. The time was 5 years. I turned in the first draft in March 2011.
So why did it take so long, do you think?
This is not a film that makes any sense to financiers, and when we sold it at Sundance for a lot of money to Searchlight, there's part of me that wanted to weep with frustration because, I mean, Searchlight are fantastic, and I work with them on Wild, but
God forbid they should have come in advance, you know.
Well, we went round with this script, and people say, yeah, it's very nice, but I don't see how we, basically, how can we get our money back? Because you're going to have not a huge star in the lead role. You have to kind of create your huge star, and the only guarantees you can give financiers is to say, look, we think this is going to be really, really good. But of course, everyone goes around with their script saying that this is going to be really
Yes,
good.
but you're Nick Hornby.
I'm a writer, and every movie is different, and writers don't get films financed, for sure. Actors and directors get films financed. So
Saoirse Ronan became a bigger name than you might have expected, finally.
Yes.
Who happens to be 21 years old.
Yes, well, I mean, the funny thing is that she was 16 when I turned in that first draft. So if we'd been any quicker, she couldn't have done it. And that kind of is so strange to me in retrospect, the idea that this film might not have had Saoirse in it. So there does seem to be sort of kismet, everyone's got to sit around waiting for Saoirse to get older.
Sometimes it just works out that way.
Yes.
It just does. And so what is this Love Nina TV series?
Love Nina is a beautiful and hilarious book that I fell in love with when I read it, and it has a real cult following. I think here a little bit as well. Like I saw Lena Dunham was tweeting about it. It's quite an eccentric book because it's a series of letters, real life, that a nanny who had just moved to London wrote to her sister in 1983, 84, 85. She got a job with a kind of an eccentric bohemian family. It's actually Stephen Frears' first wife. So the book is about Stephen Frears' ex and his two kids and this nanny, and Alan Bennett lives across the road, and it's a road full of artistic people, and Nina doesn't know who any of them are and has to learn how to get along with them